This video takes its name from the work of Sugata Mitra. Sugata Mitra is an Indian man who was trying to solve a very difficult problem in education that we as Americans don't have to deal with, simply because India is so huge and so poor. And so to do this, he initially started by training, I believe it was adults, in computer programming in Delhi. And he decided to put a computer in the wall, like a kiosk, outside of his facility, which happened to be near a Delhi slum where lots of children would roam around. And he called this the hole in the wall experiment, putting a computer in a hole in a wall and see what would happen. And as he did so, he's touched on some pretty amazing discoveries and some true principles of education.
I wanted to test the limits of this system. The first experiment I did out of Newcastle was actually done in India, and I set myself an impossible target. Can Tamil-speaking 12-year-old children in a South Indian village teach themselves biotechnology in English on their own? And I thought, I'll test them, they'll get a 0, I'll give them material, I'll come back and test them, they'll get another 0, I'll go back and say, yes, we need teachers for certain things. I called in 26 children, they all came in there, I told them, look, there's some really difficult stuff on this computer, I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't understand anything. It's all in English, and I'm going. So I left them with it. I came back after 2 months, and the 26 children marched in looking very, very quiet. I said, well, did you look at any of the stuff? They said, yes, we did. Did you understand anything? No, nothing. So I said, well, how long did you practice on it before you decided that you understood nothing? They said, we look at it every day. So I said, for 2 months you were looking at stuff you didn't understand. So a 12-year-old girl raises her hand and says, literally, apart from the fact that improper replication of the DNA molecule causes genetic disease, we've understood nothing else. Took me 3 years to publish that. It's just been published in the British Journal of Educational Technology. One of the referees who refereed the paper said, it's too good to be true, which was not very nice. Well, one of the girls had taught herself to become the teacher, and that's her over there. Remember, they don't study English.
Where is it? Where is it? Neuron?
I've edited out the last bit where she said, when I asked where is the neuron, and she says, the neuron, and then she looked and did this. But her expression was not very nice. So their scores had gone up from 0 to 30%, which is an educational impossibility under the circumstances. But 30% is not a pass. So I found that they had a friend, a local accountant, a young girl, and they played football with her. I asked that girl, would you teach them enough biotechnology to pass? And she said, how would I do that? I don't know the subject. I said, no, use the method of the grandmother. She said, what's that? I said, well, what you've got to do is stand behind them and admire them all the time. Just say to them, that's cool, that's fantastic, what is that? Can you do that again? Can you show me some more? She did that for 2 months. The scores went up to 50, which is what the posh schools of New Delhi with a trained biotechnology teacher were getting. So I came back to Newcastle with these results and decided that there was something happening here that definitely was getting very serious.
Things going on in this discussion of Sugata Mitra's here that I really want to highlight. The first is that students have great ability and power to teach each other. That's the first thing. And the reason for this has to do with anytime an adult is in the room, the adult has a power over the student that changes the learning dynamic. Even if this adult is super awesome and nice and kind and has great rapport and they mutual respect, just because they're an adult in the room that has to say, hey, put that lighter away, or has to call things to order and give instructions and all of these things because of that. And it's important to have a power over situation in a teacher, but it's not all that can teach, and it's not even necessarily the most effective way of teaching. So when a peer teaches another peer, there is not that power over situation, at least not near the same degree as when an adult is teaching. And because of that, it creates this solidarity that is really conducive to learning.
This is peer teaching at its finest. The girl with the drill is teaching all these mixed age group of kids how to finish building the Gaga ball pit so that they can play it at recess. She looks tall, but she's just another one of our students, and she is really doing an amazing thing here because all of these kids are going to learn something in a totally different way than they would be learning if an adult was teaching them. Now, both are important, but this is the kind of thing that when you come into our classrooms to support, that we want you to try to encourage. Push the children to learn from each other rather than asking you.
In Sugata Mitra's case study, he points out how having a student that took the lead in teaching the other students, or peer to peer tutoring, or teaching, or collaboration, was really the next step in unlocking student learning and seeing their abilities and their knowledge increase. So, when you come into our classrooms and act as a granny, one part of your job really is to encourage that kind of collaboration. So, this can include pointing the kids to each other. Well, is there someone you can ask that might know how to do this? Sometimes it means you're going to help a little bit with interpersonal communication and mediation skills. So if two students are kind of at an impasse trying to figure out how to do something, you can step in and help them better collaborate with each other.
We want to keep our student in the driver's seat. So if you solve their problem, you've kicked them out of the driver's seat. If you offer them questions that help them think through the solution themselves, they're still in the driver's seat. If you encourage them to go find another student to help them find an answer, they're still in the driver's seat.
Now we're going to talk about the second thing Sugata Mitra points out in his case study that accelerates student learning. So this was when the young woman he asked to come into the room and do the work of the grandmother, he said. Stand behind them, admire them. It's really important that when you come into our classrooms, you are not fulfilling the role of judge or the role of teacher and the fount of all wisdom. Your role really is to be this massive, amazing cheerleader. And so we're going to talk about grannies for just a minute. And because I happen to have the best granny in the whole world, we'll start with her.
This is my Grandma Lena. Grandma Lena had a stroke when I was 5 years old, and it left her in a wheelchair, unable to walk, obviously. She only had control of about one side of her body, and she was unable to speak. She could say a couple of words, but not communicate in the way we were used to. However, because she was amazing and had such will, she did not allow this to stop her from communicating to us, her grandchildren, how much she loved us, how amazing she thought we were, and to support us in all that we did. And so this is why I chose Grandma Lena, because you can be a granny even if you don't know the right words to say. Ooh. Woo. Whoa. Mmm. Mmm.
It sounds sort of ridiculous when I'm saying it here right now, but that's the kind of enthusiasm that you need to throw into whatever words you do say. So let's talk about words for a minute.
This is the easiest list of things to say. It's just excitement, expressions of awesomeness, and never underestimate the power of saying, "Can I take a picture of that?" Next are questions you say as you see this really cool project the kid is working on. Ooh, tell me about that. How does it work? Can you do that again? Show me more. How did you think of that? What is your next step? Tell me everything. Tell me everything because you're so excited.
Having adults in the room that are different than the regular teacher really adds some authenticity to these questions about the students' projects because you haven't seen these before. You are genuinely curious. Typically, me as a teacher has been talking through different approaches or different ideas, and sometimes without us even meaning to, teachers get a little bit attached to how we think a student might do something. And so you as a fresh pair of eyes and as a true granny can really give them the confidence and a fresh set of eyes and a fresh experience on how to see and experience and be excited about their projects that me as a teacher can't do in the same way. The next set of questions have to do with kind of facilitating them moving through maybe a challenging part of a project.
Your job is to reflect back to them what they already know and what they've already tried so that they can better see the way forward. Remember, keep them in the driver's seat. I also like the metaphor of the rock climber because when you're down on the ground, you can see things differently than someone that's right in the thick of it. And so your job can be to point out, oh, well, there's an option over here, but the kid has got to be the one that decides to take that route.
Pro tip, if you see a kid that's just sitting there spacing off, or sketching, or horsing around, or bugging their neighbor, or getting into other trouble and not actively working the project, your first assumption should not be that they're goofing off. Most of the time, I see this behavior when a kid is stuck and doesn't know what to do or how to get out of it. So keep that in mind and treat them as if they're actually sitting there scratching their chin, wondering what to do, and use that same set of questions that you would use in that case.
And then sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is actually just describe what you're seeing. Reflect back to them. You're using so much concentration. You're not giving up. Those are actually the best compliments. Remember, you are an adult in the room, so you can offer comments that encourage safety and responsibility in a positive way.
Thank you so much for taking the time to learn about how to be a granny in the classroom and how to help our kids really step up to the next level of learning with your support. We couldn't do it without you.